You know, it was my father who said something very, very interesting to me years ago. It's funny, I worked for him in the summers, I was a young kid. And I remember we would drive down to his office and downtown. We lived in Philadelphia, and we drove down. And we would go and park our car in the parking lot nearby. And there was a guy there who ran the parking lot. Now, this is a pretty blue-collar job, pretty modest in its expectations. But my dad said something to me that was pretty significant impact on me. He said, I don't even remember the guy's name, but his name is Joe. He said, Joe is the best guy parking cars anywhere in this city. He's the best. And he turned to me and he said, and he called me Bobby, not even Bob, he called me Bobby. He said, Bobby, whatever you do, I don't care whether you're parking cars or you're a nuclear physicist, whatever you do, you just want to strive to be the very, very best at what you're doing. It doesn't matter what it is, it's just that you have to really care about being good at it, really great at it. And that's a piece of advice that stayed with me. I mean, just it didn't really matter what the calling was. He didn't make any judgments about that. It was just about sort of measuring your own performance against a standard of excellence. And that was a pretty telling piece of advice, given that it's been more than 50 years ago that he gave it to me. To be remembered for the thing that I would care about the most and the thing that I really value is that I wrote a book that actually has proven to be fairly helpful to people. And it's not that I wrote a book because and said, well, I sold a lot of copies. That doesn't matter. It's just that judging from the emails I've gotten and the conversations I've had with people, it seems like it's been pretty useful. And what people have said to me, it's not useful because it trumpets your successes. It's useful because it sort of celebrates your failures. And I often will say that The Art of Client Service is not a book of success, it's a book of failure. And the thing that I think is most valuable about it is that it sort of teaches others to avoid the things that I sort of live through. So I guess that's probably the one thing I'd want to be remembered for. Actually, there's a guy named Matt Singer. He's a young account guy. He wrote to me and he asked me the question you're asking me. He said, Robert, what's the one thing that matters in account management, which is kind of analogous to your point about what's the one truth. And I wrote back to Matt and I said, Matt, I wrote a book that has 58 things in it, and you're asking me the one thing that matters. Now, I don't know that this is actually like something cosmic, that you could take to the bank and remember. But the answer I gave to Matt, I said, Matt, if you had to choose one thing to be really, to really remember, it's knowing how to ask the right question. Because asking the right question means that you've listened, you're a really good listener, you're a really good communicator, and that you're really smart. Good questions exhibit all three of those attributes. So rather than providing answers, I said to Matt, it's really asking the right question. I think if I could go back to when I was a young account guy, I would probably say to them, you should cherish the clients that you really value, because the clients that you're able to forge sort of meaningful trust-based relationships are the ones that will really, ultimately, when the day is done, be the reasons why you succeed. So when you get the client, the occasional client who actually becomes someone really meaningful and important to you, just paying really close heed to valuing the quality of that relationship would probably what I would say to my 25-year-old self, who didn't really understand or know how important clients were to the overall equation of making really superior work.